We've been talking about, what we call these things, and we settled on the word sketch because I think it's an interesting word to use. It also comes back to where we come from in our performance history in South Africa. In the townships, we would do things that we would call sketches,
Yeah,
sketch, which were
yeah.
little plays, little just pieces of performance that we would sketch together. And there's something about it that's very, calling it a sketch is very also leaning into the processual nature of it, the fact that it doesn't have to be anything kind of super organized. And that's kind of part of the very core idea of what the Center for the Less Good Idea is about. We put things together in a very kind of processual way. So I'll call it a sketch just for kind of ease, because it's difficult to call it a poem. I mean, it's a choreo poem, I think, in another way,
Okay,
but it's difficult to call it a play or whatever. So my
okay.
my work then takes poetry and brings into it music and brings into it
Fantastic.
movement and scenography. Yeah, I think it's a really interesting medium to work in because, it moves away from some of the more rigid ways of
Uh,
writing or expectation on writing. So I've written some poems about the experiences of women in Johannesburg. So my work really looks at Johannesburg as what we would call a sundown town. If you
uh.
remember those parts of America, certain counties and areas in the South, for example, where Black people would not be allowed to be after
Yeah, yeah,
sundown
yeah,
because of
yeah,
the
yeah,
right. So
yeah.
that was kind of the idea for me, looking at what is it for a woman to be caught in Johannesburg after sundown? What is the experience of that? Because on the one hand, it's so beautiful to see a sunset, right? And we love to see sunsets, but you don't really stand in the middle of Joburg and go, wow, the sunset is beautiful, because you're
Yeah,
aware
yeah,
of
yeah. There's no time for that.
no time for that.
Yeah.
Exactly. And there's actually a line in one of the poems where I say a second is a lifetime in downtown years.
Mm,
And that's basically the idea that the city moves so quickly. There are
mm,
so many considerations, especially when you're a woman, around your safety, around, fear and danger and so on. And so what is this irony between the beauty of the sunset and the beauty of the stars, but also understanding that you need to get home because
mm.
there's a geography of danger sometimes that plays in with the beauty.